This is my haul for Indie Bookstore Day. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is my Indie Bookstore haul for 2026. So if you don't know, Indie Bookstore Day was the weekend of, it was actually this Saturday, April 25th. And so I took myself out. It was a beautiful spring day. There was so much going on in my city and I had to avoid a lot of it, but Indie Bookstore Day, I made a trek all the way across the city from east to west, west to east. I think it was west to east. Anyway, and I stopped at 5 bookstores and I bought these books plus some other things. I bought a little book nook. I bought a hat. But these are all the books that I picked up, and I'm going to show you in order how I picked them up and what I'm looking forward to reading. So let's get into it. The first place I stopped was a beautiful small little bookshop that is owned by a mother and daughter duo. They are so kind and always so nice, and there was a ton of people in the bookshop. I had gotten up early, gotten my big giant iced coffee and a giant croissant about as big as my head, and then I walked over to the bookstore, and I think I got there about 10 or so, and Indie Bookstore Day had started at about 9, and the place it's a small place and it was already crowded, but I was looking for this specific book and I couldn't find it on the shelves, so I picked up a book nook. So I bought a book nook, and then I just for the time being, whenever I got up there was no line and so I just asked them, hey, do you have this book? And they're like, well, we have some for our book club, but we don't have any on the shelf. And then they were kind enough to just take this one off out of their shelf, out of their little cabinet that they had, and they actually let me buy it. So I'm really, really excited because this is one of the most talked about books, and it is called Yesteryear by Carol Claire Burke. You can see it's the Good Morning America Book Club edition. And I'm really excited about this because, I don't know, I love internet drama and I love learning about all the tradwife nonsense. And this is like a horror story and, time travel and all that. So I'm really, really interested in this. It's one of the few like really popular books that I'm really, really interested in. Not that I don't love popular books, but I mean the book of the now, right? The book of like the zeitgeist, or the book of like book talk or booktube or whatever. I usually just read at my own pace. So I'm really excited to dig into this, and they were so kind to get me, or to find a copy for me out of their limited stock. So I'm really grateful to be able to live in a city where I have small independent bookstores, and that I am able to support people's businesses, and they recognize that, and they recognize that I'm a customer who will keep buying from them. So they want to make sure that I have the books that I want to read. So that's really, really cool, and that's why I love the idea of Indie Bookstore Day. So I picked this one up, and I also picked up like I said, a little book nook that's somewhere around here. I'm not going to put it together now, but yeah, really excited to read this one. Then I walked over to the local mystery bookstore, and it's got much more than mystery, but it is basically mostly a mystery bookstore. That's what its main selection is. It does have the popular books, it does have romance, regular fiction, teen fiction, everything, but mostly it is based on mystery books. So I picked up an author that I've heard a lot about. I've heard mixed things about them, but this one really, really like appealed to me, and so I thought I would pick it up. It is Lucy Foley, The Hunting Party. I have not read any of her books yet. I've heard, like I said, I've heard different things, but I believe this one is set in the Scottish Highlands, or it's Scottish castle and mystery slash thriller kind of thing. I see it's a Reese's book club pick. We all know how we feel about Reese right now and her AI pitch. But yeah, I'm really excited to read this because I think Lucy Foley sounds like a really intriguing thriller writer, and I hope this one's good. And again, Scottish countryside, Scottish castles, Scottish whatever. I'm this like this has like a weird, like, just has that appeal to me of like a big, like a big house mystery, but also a little bit of horror thrown in or something like that. But anyway, hope that's what this is. So I'm looking forward to that one. I picked up another one of the British Tales of the Weird that they had on their shelves. This is The Haunted Trail, Classic Tales of the Rambling Weird, edited by Weird Walk. And this is my second volume, second or third, might be my third volume of these. But it has several short stories in here, and it does have one by M.R. James, which is why I picked this up. I'm really intrigued by M.R. James and his selection of short stories. There's a lot of other ones in here that I really haven't heard of, but there's usually a pretty interesting collection of stories in these. From the darkly humorous to the chillingly sinister, tales of the haunted trail are as old as time. So I really am interested in getting into this one. And then I picked up an author who's kind of new to me. She's been around BookTube and BookTok for years, 10 years at least. I have not gotten into her until recently. I actually listened to her podcast, which is the reason that I want to read her book. And she has her first adult fantasy book coming out in September. So I wanted to find the original, but I can't find her original book anywhere in my local indie bookstores. So I found this one. This is her second series, and this is Victoria Aveyard Realmbreaker. And as you can see, this is, they always put these little notes on there about, it says, the description in this book are insane. Multiple POVs, quest vibes for days. So this was put on there by the store, and I think that's really cool. So this is teen fantasy. I think it's supposed to be between her, she did the Red Queen series, and I'm sure if you're familiar with the book community, there is a big discussion about the difference between Red Queen and the supposed allegations about Powerless. And so Victoria Aveyard, like I said, I've been listening to her podcast with Soman Chainani, who wrote The School for Good and Evil. And I'm not really a teen romantasy or teen fantasy reader, but she just strikes me as a really smart, funny person who just really understands the craft of writing, really cares about her readers, and I want to try her reading. So this is from Harper Teen. Like I said, I think it's supposed to be between like her transition from like young adult, not quite maybe like new adult or teen, but not adult fantasy. So I'm really excited to read this. And actually, I'll just take this off carefully, but you can see the artwork on the front there, and then the inside is actually really, really cool. It's got some character art on the inside, and there are 3 books in this series, and then you can see on the back they have the Red Queen series. So I just can't find a copy of Red Queen anywhere in my local indie bookstores. I don't want to have to go to Barnes & Noble to buy it, but I might have to because I know they have it. But yeah, interested in getting into Victoria Aveyard and hoping that her writing is something that I really enjoy. Then I wandered down the street to the more artsy bookstore it's a really nice, it's small, it's a really nice little space. It's part coffee bar, part bookstore, and the cool thing about them is that they have their books arranged on this shelf by like location. So you start with like over in the corner is like the US by region, and then, you know, sort of like the New York, the Mid-Atlantic region, the Midwest, you know, the South, all that. And then it kind of goes by countries of the world around, you know, like Antarctica, you know, and then of course, you know, Europe, Asia, South America, Australia, you know, every country, every continent. And it's a really, really cool selection. And what I love about this place is that they have not just the NYRB, they have so many NYRB books, but I have never paid full price yet for one, so I didn't buy one of those yet. But they do have one of the classic edition they do have a publisher that I am really, really excited to dig into more, and that is Pushkin Press. So I picked up two Pushkin Press books. I found Laya or Lala Romano's In Farthest Seas. This is actually nonfiction as far as I understand, but it is about her marriage. It is a retelling of her relationship with her husband after he died. And it just sounds really intriguing to me. I have another book here that's sort of in that same vein, but she is, I believe, an Italian writer. I think so. I believe she's an Italian writer, and this is and it is translated by Brian Robert Moore. And this was written in the 90s, 80s or 90s, I believe. And yeah, she's also deceased, but this was written after her husband died. So this was, 1987. Okay. So this was written in 1987, and then this edition is from 2025, this translation. Really, really interested. Like I said, it sounds super sad, but also I've read a lot of really intriguing Italian writers lately, so I am very interested to see what this book is all about. And then I picked up Theodore Fontaine's Effie Briest. I've heard a lot about this. Theodore Fontaine seems to be sort of like Stefan Zweig, one of Pushkin Press's most published authors. And this one is basically about a 17-year-old who marries a much older man, and it's set in Prussia. And it says it's a witty masterpiece of poetic realism. And it portrays a spirited woman stifled by duty, torn between the constraints of respectability and the insistence of the heart. So really, really love a good, interesting period piece like this. And I read a little bit about the translation in here. This is actually translated by two people, Hugh Rorison and Helen Chambers. And there's a nice translator's note in the front that talks about everything that they did to really replicate the poetry of Theodore Fontaine's writing, and how in a lot of cases that's just sort of impossible because there are like puns and sort of plays on word that you cannot exactly translate. So it is admitting that it is sort of imperfect, but that they have tried their best to sort of replicate the rhythm and the beauty of the lyrics, but the rhythm and the beauty of the writing. And he is considered nowadays quite the classic author from Germany. So really excited to get into this. I know there is also, I think there is an NYRB version of this. I don't know. I'm assuming it's a different translator, but I think this is a beautiful edition. And it was very cool when I went up to the register to buy these. The guy who was there was like, "Oh, you looks like you've picked up some beautiful editions." I'm like, "Yes, I love Pushkin Press. Thank you for stocking them." Okay, and then I made my way towards the middle of the city, and had to. There was a university party going on, and I was dodging water balloons and all kinds of things, but I had a very full bag of books, but I am stubborn, so I just kept going. But I found this one is more of like a general bookstore. It's sort of centrally located in the city. It has a really good selection. It is owned by a woman who, her dog is kind of the mascot, and they're moving soon. They're going to move to a bigger space that's actually closer to me, which I'm really excited about. And so I went there and I picked up these two books. I always find something rather interesting there. So I picked up The Wax Child by Olga Ravin. I really am intrigued by this book. This is about a 17th century witch trial, basically. So she is, I think, is she Danish? Yeah, she's from Denmark. And it's about a 17th century witch trial, and the Wax Child is something that is like something either the accused witch has, or I don't know, something that embodies some kind of like harbinger or omen or token of the witch or the accused witch in this book, and it is told, I believe, from, yeah, I read a few pages. It is told from the perspective of the wax child, and again, it's sort of a horror, small, very small book, but I'm really intrigued. I've heard really interesting things, and I just love this cover. It's just so spooky, and I'm hoping it is like more gothic horror than just like bleh horror. But like I said, I really love 17th century history, and I am really interested in 17th century witch trials, and this is just kind of the perfect, sounds like the perfect mix of that for me. And then I finally found this one in a new copy. This is Joan Didion, The Year of Magical Thinking. I've heard so many things about this book, and I've just heard about, you know, that is one of her most noted books. Joan Didion, brilliant writer, she's a brilliant critic, around for years. I mean, she made that, like, she made that very notable, you know, that very notable response to a critique of hers. She basically, was she the one that talked about, maybe, I don't know, she was writing in a literary journal about her critique of some other author, and then of some book, and then someone else wrote in this sort of long thing about how she was wrong, and da 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 da, and da 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 da, and it was very like male centered and very just, I don't know if it was, I don't remember if it was specifically misogynist, but it was just very much a, well, actually. And then her response to it at the bottom of this long letter to the editor, her response at the bottom was just, oh, wow. So I've always sort of loved her for that. And I've heard many things about this, and this is about her lost her husband. I believe she also lost her daughter. I am not married, I don't have children, but it is sort of in the same vein as this Leia Romano book. So I'm just really excited to have a copy of this, because this is the one piece from Joan Didion. And again, I know she has a pretty wide array of books, but this is the one I've always wanted to read from her. So I'm very happy to finally have a copy of this. And then I went over to the east side after I went to the coffee shop and sat and had my giant tall iced mocha and my cookie sandwich, because sustenance was needed. And so after I took a break at the coffee shop, I went over to the east side. I was walking this whole time, so I was tired and my arms hurt. So I went over to the east side, and I stopped at one of the bookstores that I have been going to since I was a teenager. It's moved many times around the city since I was a teenager, but it used to be a very specifically feminist bookshop. And it has now obviously branched out into much more than feminism. It is, you know, branched out into a lot of different trans authors, pro-Palestine, small presses, very socially conscious, and I really adore the bookstore. It also has, you know, all of the regular literature. It's not trying to like ban any books or like not let you have any books. It's got everything there that you could want, but it does specialize in, you know, social justice and those kinds of books. And I really, you know, it is just really like a staple of the place I live. And like I said, I've been going there since I was 16, and I picked up, they have a wall there that's for small presses specifically. And so I picked up both of these on the small press wall, and I'm so excited for these. So one is, this is from Charco Press. This is Sarah Torres, X is Where I Am. Charco Press specifically specializes in translated fiction from Latin America, or not even just fiction, but translated literature from Latin America. So I have a couple of books back here already that I have. So I have The Adventures of China Iron and Tidal Waters by Vela Vidal. I haven't read them yet, but I did pick them up sometime in April or March with some money or with a gift card from my birthday. But so I am very excited to pick up another one. This is one again that has like the French flaps. It's very cool. It's got this sort of stylized hand on there, and then when you open it up, you can see little echoes of that on the inside. So these are really, again, I love really specialized presses, smaller presses. That's why I like Pushkin. It's why I like NYRB. And I like translated fiction, so I'm really excited. This is actually set in, not Latin America, this is set in Barcelona, but it is that really, but it is, you know, translated from the Spanish. So that really hit me because I was in Barcelona in 2018, and it was one of the favorite cities that I visited. It's a really lovely city, and I'm really excited to read more about that. And then I'm super excited about this. I found my first Fitzcarraldo edition, which are not very easy to get a hold of in the United States that I know of. I mean, maybe they are in other cities in the US, but not in my city. This is the only place I've ever seen, and there was only one on the wall. So this is What Am I, a Deer by Polly Barton, the Fitzcarraldo edition. And again, it is one of those French flap books. I believe these are based in Edinburgh, Scotland. Again, they deal a lot with like translated fiction, like modern literature, but in like, they're all in these blue style, just very plain looking, minimalistic editions. I know there is a US edition of this that is, you know, different. It's the typical hardback with artwork and all that, but I really, really love the design, the aesthetic of these, and I am really, really interested in reading this. I actually saw her talking about her inspiration for this book. I'm really excited to dig into this because of the clip I saw of her inspiration for this book was just so intriguing, and I am anxious to get into this. So my first Fitzcarraldo edition. It's got this nice little sort of embossing right here of this little bell, and I don't believe I believe she's English. She herself is a translator, so she has translated the Butter book by Asako Yuzuki. That is a very popular one right now. She has also published some nonfiction, and just seems like a really, really interesting writer. And so I am really excited because I've heard a lot of buzz about this one as well. I went right across the street, so there is the one bookstore on the one side, and then across the street, directly across the street, is the used bookstore, which I love. This used bookstore, it specializes in trade paperbacks, especially like old mass market paperbacks, and it just has the most cool esoteric collection, and the person who owns it is so cool, always remembers me. I have actually picked up 2 or 3 of my NYRB books from there, and I didn't find an NYRB this time, but I found this really beautiful edition of James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time. So these editions they were recently printed, at least I believe they were, and there's a whole set of them. And this was on the shelf. It was, I think it was $10, maybe even less than that. What was it? It says on the inside, $8. And I've been seeing, you know, I have not read any James Baldwin, and I know that that is a huge gap in my reading history. I really respect James Baldwin and what he had to live through, what he means for so many people, and what he represents in Black literature. So I am really excited to have this beautiful edition. And I know I know that a few of the other bookstores that I visit have like this full collection. This is the vintage collection, so this is from Vintage. So I'm really excited that I have this one. This is a very slim volume, and it is, I believe this is nonfiction, and it's all about the civil rights movement and the legacy of racism, and just sort of a classic work of his. And in these times, it is so important to keep literature like this alive. So I picked this one up, and I am ready to delve into it at some point this year. So I also picked up a hat when I was there, so I wanted to make sure to make at least a good purchase from them, because I really enjoy, like I said, the really cool used bookstore vibe that's going on. It's so eclectic, it is so unique, and I just am so happy that I live in a city that has so many cool choices for indie bookstores. And at least for me, they are walkable. You know, I can go from one part of the city all the way to the other and just find this wide array of books and get so excited about each bookstore that I go into. And I can buy brand new books, I can buy thrifted books, and it is just such a wonderful thing that I have choices and that I can support small businesses and people who know me when I walk in and know what I like to buy and remember me. And it is so wonderful to be able to have that. And I realize that's a huge privilege, and I am so happy for that. So that's one of the reasons that I don't have to depend on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, you know. And if you buy from Amazon, I understand, you know, that that is a source of a lot of books for a lot of people. I paused my Amazon Prime months and months ago, and I don't really want to support them as a business model because I don't like what their owner has done to the world. um, and Barnes and Noble, I love Barnes and Noble, but they are big, they are huge, and they've had this huge renaissance, and they have a lot of customers. They don't necessarily need me. I know there was a time when Barnes and Noble was really struggling, and they, you know, but since the sort of resurgence of books in a big way since the pandemic, I feel like Barnes and Noble is doing more than well at this point. And I will go to Barnes and Noble if I want to. It's on the far side of town, so I have to like get on the bus and sit on the bus for half an hour and go to Barnes and Noble. And I enjoy doing that, and I enjoy having a big cavernous bookstore, and I enjoy having a lot of choices, but I just feel like my money is better spent on indie bookstores. So I am so glad that there is a day to focus on that. And I wish there were more days to focus on that. And I try to, you know, spend my money locally. And you know, Barnes and Noble, there's a lot of cool local people that work in my Barnes and Noble. They're part of the community. They have, you know, I think they should have jobs. I want them to be paid. And I recognize a lot of people that work at Barnes and Noble. So they are, you know, not that they're not part of my community, but, you know, the big corporation of Barnes and Noble doesn't need my patronage as much as these places do. And they seem to, the indie bookstores seem to at least appreciate my patronage more than maybe Barnes and Noble would. And so that's just where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to say that my book buying choices are any better than anyone else, but I did want to highlight why I love indie bookstores, why I went so hard for Indie Bookstore Day. This is probably, I'm hoping, this is going to be like the last huge book haul that I'm going to be doing for a while. I've got some things going on in life that mean I need to not be bringing things into my abode. I need to not be piling up books, and I need to just focus on what I have, reading and using all the things that I have. So, but I really, really wanted to show my support on Indie Bookstore Day. So I hope that you enjoyed seeing this haul. Let me know if you participated in Indie Bookstore Day in your area, or if there's an Indie Bookstore Day, or if there's an indie bookstore that you love in your area and why you love it. And do they specialize in anything? You know, are they a mystery? Are they a romance? Are they just, you know, general fiction? Are they thrifted? I would love to hear what your favorite indie bookstores are. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Any of those be welcome. All of them would be deeply, deeply appreciated. And I will see you in the next one.